If you were wondering where I've been, it's in the world of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, which has a free trial
covering the base game of Realm Reborn and its award-winning expansion Heaven's Word up to level
60. Sorry, got a little carried away there. Anyway, for those who are still here despite the lack of new content in well over a year, I'm sorry. But I have a good excuse. You see, I think I've found it. I found the one JRPG to rule them all.
Precious.
In the past year, I've been spending a lot of time playing Final Fantasy XIV while trying to recover from the burnout of YouTube and other life things. I needed to just play a game for fun without the pressure of turning it into a video, and this was my escape. I didn't even plan on spending so much time on it, but I've fallen in love with the game. So far, I've clocked over 2,600 hours, and it continues to climb. That's way longer than any other game I've played by a long shot, and probably more than all the single-player JRPGs I've played in the past 2 years. I guess I shouldn't be so surprised since I am a huge Final Fantasy fan, but that's probably not the only reason I've sunk so many hours into it. Due to the pandemic, I haven't really had much social interaction outside of my household, and typically this would be great news for an introvert like myself. But alas, I am still a social creature and need some interaction with people. Final Fantasy XIV was one of the ways to continue to have those connections, especially with friends I don't really see anymore due to distance. While MMORPGs are a great forum to stay in touch with people, there can also be a dark side to them, and that's gaming addiction.
Whoever this person is, he has played nearly every hour of every day for the past year and a half.
I never considered my gaming hobby to be an addiction, despite the enormous amount of hours I spent on it. It's not something that was ever detrimental to my own well-being, so I never thought about it. After all, I was going to the gym, I had a stable job, I was eating healthy, and I had the sleep schedule of an old man who couldn't stay up past 10 PM. There was a balance in my life, and it was fulfilling. But lately, a lot of that is not true anymore, and instead of growing, I've spent more and more time in the virtual world of Eorzea and shut off from the real world entirely. Within the past year or so, Final Fantasy XIV has had a huge surge in popularity due to various factors. World of Warcraft had a falling out with some of its player base, leading to WoW refugees flocking over to try the game out for the first time, including the very well-known streamer Asmongold. Also, there was the release of the latest expansion, Endwalker, which caused huge server congestions and hours-long login queues, forcing Square Enix to temporarily suspend sales and free trial registration. Final Fantasy XIV has become such a huge success, and for good reason. It has great music, fun content, a rich world to explore that's only getting bigger, and a well-told story. If we look at this game on day 1 versus where it is now, the difference is night and day. The game has gone through so many iterations and improvements, though there are some lingering issues with the base game of Realm Reborn, also known as ARR. Despite some filler content being cut and updates made to make the experience more pleasant, the quests were still pretty boring and the story was slow to start. I've tried getting a few friends to play, but to no avail. Personally, I played through much worse, so I didn't mind this aspect of the game. I'm probably one of the few who started liking the story after the 2.4 patch in ARR, but I thought Alphinaud's character arc was done really well. Meanwhile, most people don't get into the story until the first expansion, Heavensward, which makes sense. Its storytelling and characters were on a whole other level. I even loved it more than Shadowbringers or Endwalker. Yeah, I said it! Don't at me! While the gameplay loop in Heavensward still didn't show much improvements from ARR, the narrative was very captivating. Ishgard was full of secrets, just screaming to be uncovered, and I always like a good revenge story. Although without characters like Orshvan, Izel, and even the less prominent ones like Hilda, it wouldn't quite be the same. They really made each leg of the journey something worth remembering. Heavensward may reign supreme in my book, but I'm also not trying to diminish the quality of the other expansions, which are fan-effing-tastic. Well, except for Stormblood, since the villain was pretty lame. Shadowbringers did a really good job of exploring the backstories of the Ashians, a mysterious group of people cloaked in black. And Endwalker, well, let's just say, was out of this world. Some expansions also included crossover raids from some of what I consider to be the best JRPGs, like Nier Automata, Final Fantasy Tactics, and Final Fantasy XII, so there's even more to appreciate. Though I started playing about a year and a half ago, I didn't really start sinking in excessive amounts of time until the last couple of months. This is when I noticed I may have a problem. I caught up on the story a while ago, so I've just been grinding for gear and learning the current endgame raids, which has been a new experience for me because I'm a solo player.
I'm a solo player, got it.
I had avoided Party Finder for so long, but since some quests require more than one person, I had to get comfortable playing with others. Turns out, Party Finder isn't a scary place full of tryhards and toxic gamers like I thought it would be. Completing cooperative content with friendly players reminded me of why MMOs are so addicting. It was really easy to lose track of time, thinking I can do one more thing, and then suddenly the sun appears out of nowhere. This is the reason I've avoided MMOs for so long. It's during these times that I felt like a part of the community, and not someone who is just kind of there, despite my quietness outside of saying hi or typing the wave emote. I've met some pretty cool people that made the grinding feel nothing like that at all. I actually looked forward to seeing what groups were doing and the adventures that were in store for me. Party Finder is a great tool to do many activities in the game, but I've been spending most of my time in Bozja grinding for my relic weapons and achievements. The process is a long and tedious one, yet I can't seem to get enough of it. It also helps that Bozja is rather fun since it's much different from the standard game. It's only one of a few places that has its own special rules, but it does stand out from the rest due to loss actions, which adds powerful new abilities to use. In combination with unique buffs specific to Bozja, characters can be much stronger than normally possible. I've come to realize that I really like aspects of games that allow me to do kind of insane things. It's one of the reasons why I like the Disgaea series so much and have so much fun with combat in Final Fantasy Tactics. Being able to mob 20 enemies without much effort and doing over 40k damage with a loss action is pretty entertaining. But it's not just being overpowered that makes Bozja so appealing. After all, if there's nothing to learn or improve on, what's the point? The foray has its own fate encounters, various boss fights, and raids, so there's usually always something going on and something to challenge me. So far, I've gotten pretty good at most of the engagements since I've done them so many times, and I'm in the process of learning the duels. There are a lot of interesting mechanics and teamwork that go into fights, which I haven't seen much of in other content that I've done. Unfortunately, since Bozja is a little outdated, some activities have very little participation, if any at all. So last month, I joined a couple of Discord servers that organize runs for them by recommendation of guild members and a few people I met in Bozja. I was able to complete my first Delubrum Reginae Savage raid thanks to these guys, and I plan on running more to get better at it. This place is no joke, and things can get very hectic when things go awry. The people who ran the show were incredibly nice and have made what could have been a stressful and aggravating experience very pleasant. Without them, parts of Bozja would have been dead long ago, and I'm incredibly thankful sub-communities like this exist so new or late players like me can go back and enjoy older content. At the end of the day, I think it's the player base that really makes Final Fantasy XIV feel special. I've always felt welcomed and have only ever been supported no matter how bad I screwed up. I should also thank my friend who invited me to join his guild and the amazing people there too. They were the ones who helped me all the way through my Sprout days, giving me gear and tips, even teaching me not to respect content so they could quickly get their second chance points. They've really made the initial and ongoing experience within the game enjoyable. I don't think I would have loved Final Fantasy XIV as much as I did if not for them. With much needed updates coming down the pipeline like data center travel so I can play with even more friends and continued support for at least 10 years, it's going to be increasingly difficult to pry myself away. Even without the updates, there's still so much left I have to do, like start Eureka. I'll eventually cut down on the time I spend in game and return back to my old schedule, but in the meantime, maybe I'll see some of you in Final Fantasy XIV.